everybody's ready, we'll get started. First of all, I want to welcome everyone to the McCreary County Board of Education Special Call Board Meeting, April 18, 2013, at 6:00 p.m. here at the Central Office Building. We appreciate the public attending the meeting, and thank you very much. The first item on the agenda is to call this meeting to order with roll call. Ms. Gibson.
Here.
Ms. Shook.
Here.
Mr. Kidd.
Here.
And Ms. Gilreath.
Here.
The next item on the agenda is to approve the agenda.
I'll make the motion to approve the agenda.
I'll say.
Ms. Gibson.
Aye.
Ms. Shook.
Aye.
Mr. Kidd.
Aye.
And Ms. Gilreath.
Aye. Yes.
We've got a big crowd here, and it just, since I'm relatively new to the board, I want to make sure that we're all on the same page through this meeting. This at least is the first special call meeting of McCreary County School District that I've attended. I don't know how common it is for the district to have special call meetings. So before we get into the actual items on the agenda, I thought I might be able to address a little bit about what can and can't be done in a special call meeting, and also the purpose of the work session tonight, just so that you'll know when, where, and how to get your questions answered if they're not otherwise answered tonight. And this is great attendance. It's nice to see people who are concerned about what's going on in the school district to be here. A special call meeting, by statute, you can only consider the action the items that are on the agenda. So anything that's not on the agenda cannot be discussed in a special call meeting, as opposed to a regular meeting where the agenda can be amended by consent of the board members. So anything that's not on the agenda is not appropriate for discussion by the board this evening. The other thing that may be a little bit different than certainly than a regular board meeting is that, with the exception of this first thing, I think comprehensive district improvement plan, the board's not going to be taking any specific action as such. At least my understanding, the purpose of the meeting tonight is more of a work session, and that's an opportunity for the board members to receive information and to give information, and in particular about school finances. So I think there will be probably a number of school staff who will give information and allow the board members the opportunity to ask questions about that information. Because of the nature of the special call meeting and a work session, please understand that if you, as just a member of the public or a member of the school staff, if you have a particular question, it would be better if you address that question through maybe the board member in your district, or if you're in the district where there's a vacancy, maybe talk to any one of the other board members. You can also, of course, talk to Superintendent White about your questions. Ms. Sizemore can probably answer your questions in a financial matter. The other thing too is to say that the main focus, I think, of tonight's meeting is about the financial situation of the district and how to address that. And it's certainly not that the board does not want input, but simply because of the number of you here and the limited nature of a special call meeting and work session, to say, I guess I would just ask you to listen, make notes of any questions and concerns you have, make notes of any ideas you have, and then take those ideas or concerns to your particular board member or to Superintendent White as applicable, or to Ms. Osborne as applicable. The final thing I guess I would ask you to keep in mind, this is about the school district finances. And of course, the school board has a lot of say in how the financial resources of the school district are spent. The board can create positions, the board can abolish positions, the board can fund positions, and one of the things that is underlying the timing of this meeting is that the board's going to have to make a significant decision about the budget by the end of May. And that's why we said this is going to be discussed further in the next couple of regular meetings. But the board cannot talk about personnel And I know that may seem odd, because obviously what funding you have in the district has a pretty obvious relationship to what jobs you have in the district. But the way Kentucky law is written, the board's role stops at the level of finance. So I would just ask you, please don't put them on the spot, ask them about particular positions or particular personnel decisions. It puts them in an awkward spot, they really cannot have any role in that. And again, as you probably know, school district staffing decisions are made typically through recommendation at the council level. Depending on the position, there are some exceptions that some are made from central office. But if you have a question about a particular position, or whether or not you or someone you're concerned with is going to have a position next year, and if so, what and where, I would ask you maybe start that inquiry with Superintendent Wright, because he is, by statute, the one who has to make those decisions.
We are never given a paper that has the personnel's name on it. You know, we don't know personnel. You know, which will be a position cut.
It's a decision that the legislature made
Yeah, we don't know that, we don't know that.
20-some years ago, so it's just one of those things where, like I said, I know it can be frustrating sometimes, but
Yeah.
that's what it is. So and I don't know exactly what's going to be discussed tonight, and I know Ms. Sizemore is probably going to talk about, so what the available funds are, restrictions maybe on some of those funds. Certain funds have to be allocated to certain expenditures. And I don't know, as well. And then there's some particular concerns this year, not only in this district, but I think in every district in the state. We've got the issues with the Kentucky School Insurance Trust, we've got the issues with federal sequestration, and then maybe some other things that are specific to this district. But I know every district across the state, it's that time of year when they have to make some difficult decisions based on staffing and resources. So as I appreciate you being here. Didn't want anybody to be frustrated or feel like they weren't being invited to be part of the process. This is simply, as I say, a board meeting that's held in public, but your questions would be better asked to your particular board member who represents you, if it's a financial issue, or Superintendent Wright if it's a personal issue. Sorry.
Well, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any questions on that? Okay, that leads us to the next item on the agenda. We have one action consent tonight, and I'd like to make a recommendation to the board that the board approve the comprehensive district improvement plan revision for the 2013-2014 school year.
When do we have to approve this, Mr. Wright?
The CDL, that has to be approved.
Because I didn't get a chance to look at this since we just got this agenda 26 hours ago.
That has to be approved by the April regular board meeting. I understand Mr. Moore correctly.
So can we table this to the next meeting?
If that's what the board likes to do.
I think it was 42 pages or something. I can look through all of it.
Actually, the three items that, in particular, that were added to the CDF was these three items that are listed on your agenda. The SITS instructional module proficiency go, and this is the software that all districts across the state will utilize in entering their test data, school report card, teacher effectiveness, and all of this information on this particular software. We have to adopt that.
This was
We have
approved before.
Pardon me?
This was approved at one of the other meetings.
The
And
next
this
item.
is just revisions here.
Yeah. The next item on the agenda, the updated state and federal, I'm sorry, the EDS module, Next Generation Professional Go, and the Advanced Kentucky College and Career Readiness Goals. The board elects to want to revisit that and approve it at another meeting, then
That's just my request. Put it off to next week. I mean, it's a week from today. I don't think that's going to hurt too much.
a second?
Need a second, need a
I'll make a
second.
motion that it be tabled to the next board meeting.
I'll second.
Ms. Gilready,
Aye.
I'm sorry, Ms. Gibson,
Aye.
Ms. Shook,
Aye.
Mr. Kidd,
Aye.
and Ms. Gilready.
Aye.
Okay, that brings us to the next item on the actions with discussion and leads into some of the budgetary information that we've been dealing with here at central office and the board members for the last, probably since the 1st of February. I just wanted to give the public and the board members a brief discussion on the allocation that our general fund budget receives. And the total general fund revenues for this upcoming school year will be $17,839,654. The school council allocation for next year is $8,873,000. Out of that, we budget Section 4, Section 5, and Section 6 money. The remaining general fund expenses for next year is $9,974,705, and that includes salary and fringe benefits and other operating expenses. And Christy Sizemore is with us this evening, and she can explain a little bit more about what's in Section 4, 5, and 6. Christy,
Right, I'll need to stand up.
you're more than welcome to, if you want to.
Clear everybody see. All right, the general fund, the first thing that Mr. Wright mentioned was the revenues. And the projected revenues that we'll be receiving for next year is $17.8 million. And of those revenues, the first thing that is carried forward is any unspent money this year. Any money that we've received this year that is not spent will be carried forward to next year to be used. It won't be lost or returned back to the state. They allow that to be carried forward. The biggest contribution is your seat monies from the state. And that's based on your student enrollment, your ADA. The next biggest contribution to your revenues is your taxes, which include property, vehicle, utility, and any other taxes that we receive. Interest on investments is just your bank interest that you receive monthly. And then a small portion of that is Medicaid reimbursements for special needs purchases. So that is what we have projected. We've used those totals to project for next year's revenues. The expenses, when you're conducting or making a general fund budget for a school district, the first thing by statute, you have to allocate your school council, your site-based funds. Those site-based funds are distributed into 3 different sections. The first section is Section 4, which is the allocation of your certified staff. And those certified staff that the board has approved in our district staffing policy is your principals, your assistant principals, librarians, counselors, and classroom instructors. So that expense is approximately $7.4 million for next year. Section 5 is the allocation of your classified staff, and that includes what's your board, according to your board staffing policy. And those include your school secretaries, bookkeepers, receptionists, library assistants, guidance assistants, lunchroom monitors, instructional assistants, your lead custodians, and your custodians. So that expense for your Section 5, your classified staff, is $1.1 million for next year. And then the next thing that you have to allocate according to the Kentucky statute is your Section 6, which is your instructional supply money. In the past, it was 3.5% of your guaranteed base or guaranteed state seat funds, which was approximately $134 per student. In years 12-13 and 13-14, the local board has the option to reduce that amount based on budget reductions. The board in February decided to decrease that amount to 3%, but the lowest that you could decrease it is $100 per pupil. And those expenses for 13-14 is $240,871, and that is based on 3% per pupil. So after you calculate your school site-based formula, any funds left over in the general fund is left up to the local board to make decisions on how to allocate. The first thing is the salary and fringe. Based on your staffing, you have, next year's staffing is going to cost approximately $6 million. And that includes anybody that is not paid out of your site base, which is your special ed teachers and aides, your speech pathologists, psychologists, school nurse, homebound, any extended days or extra service pay that anybody in the district receives, your board members, your district support staff here at central office. That includes other programs that are supported by the district, such as Gifted and Talented, the Academy, the Career Institute, Save the Children, your elementary physical ed and music teachers, and community educators. Other salary fringes at the transportation, maintenance, preschool, your certified substitutes, classified substitutes, your dental plan that the employees, all employees receive, and athletic stipends. So all of that, as I said, all those salary and fringe expenses for next year is $6 million. And then what's left over goes to your operating expenses for all departments and programs, with the exception of site-based, because they were allocated those funds separately. And those other operating expenses consist of purchase professional services, which is legal services, auditing, medical services, registration. Your purchase property services is your water, sewage, sanitation, maintenance. Other purchase services is insurance, postage, telephone, cable, advertising, any supply money, general supplies, food, natural gas, electricity, library books, textbooks, test materials, any property, which could consist of machinery, furniture, and fixtures, technology, hardware, software. And then your debt service and miscellaneous consist of your contingency, any dues, fees, field trips, and all those costs are projected to be $3.9 million, and that is including that our district meets the 2% contingency requirement by the state. So with all those expenses that's made up of the general fund, based on the projected revenues and our projected expenses, our budget is in the deficit, $1,008,072.
Thank you, Crystal. Appreciate it. I just want to say a couple of things here. And congratulations to Christy. I appreciate her effort. Here in the past probably 6 weeks, she's identified over $200,000 in funds to offset the beginning amount that we were looking at back in February, and continues to identify money, and that's very good. I told her to make sure she identified funds that we could use and don't come up with any more deficits. So she's working real hard on not giving me any bad information. So I appreciate that. But you know, the last year we were in this same position, and the reason why is because we continue to lose students. Our ADA is percentage is decreasing. We have step increases that we have to pay for as far as teachers, administrators' salary increasing every year. We have rank changes that we pay to our staff members when they go and graduate college, and then they go back to school and get their master's degree or rank 1, and we pay for that. And so, you know, combined with that, with the decrease in money that we receive from the state and federal, all districts, a lot of districts across the state of Kentucky are certainly looking for creative ways to keep the current programs that they have. And last year, we had to non-renew several teachers, and I think that the amount that we ended up reducing was $1.1 million. And this year, we're looking at just a little bit over $1 million. And so I wanted to get the board members together this evening, and we have a board meeting next week. And as you all know, as I've shared with all the board members during the past few months, there has been items that I have given you all that we may or may not vote on. We may or may not approve. Brandon mentioned there a minute ago that brought up some of the recommendations that I've shared with all of my board members in February and March, because I have met with my board members on several occasions, and my leadership team has met with them. And I'm just giving everybody kind of a background of what's happened here the past couple of months here at Central Office. When we started preparing this document of potential reduction areas, the first couple of times that we met, we thought that we had a pretty good idea on what our shortfall was going to be going into next year. And we quickly learned, or I quickly learned, that this was this document was very fluid. It moved up and down. It increased in the amount of expenditures that we needed to cut, and really up until about 2 weeks ago, Christy was able to give me the final figure, and I'll just share something with the public and the board members. This gets back to your question, Brandon, on how come you mentioned to me before the meeting, how come that, you know, I haven't given you all a final potential reductions form. Well, since Christy has given me that final figure, one day it changed to $168,000 to the negative. And so I'm reverting back to mid-February now, where you and I and Debbie and instructional supervisors were meeting in here, and I would come in and have this kind of zeroed out to where we had made the potential reductions, and this is what I was going to present to the board, and the board members, they stated that they understood and things like that. But then the calculation moved, and Christy found money that we were in a negative balance on in some of our programs. And as she continued to search and find these deficit areas, that let my beginning figure escalate. And therefore, I had to come up with more cuts. And during that time, I see no reason to, with the information that you currently had, there wasn't any reason in calling my board members back in and giving you all the beginning figure, because the next day it changed. And I couldn't feel good about myself if I let you all walk out the door and gave you a $500,000 figure, and then the next morning it was $750,000. And so we have identified some areas on this potential reduction sheet that all the board members have seen over the past 2 months. And
I don't think we got the same information as they got in February. And when I asked to see her papers, she quickly looked at you and pulled them away. So what I'd like to understand is that every board member should be able to see every single paper.
Right, and that's a good question. And the reason that some board members had a sheet totaling 800,000 and some board members had a sheet totaling 600,000 is between the time that I was able to meet
Yeah, I understand that.
with two of the board members and the next time I was able to meet with you all, it changed.
I
And
understand
so I got my leadership team together, and my leadership team was in agreement. You know, we were in here discussing some potential cuts that affected their programs, and the leadership team, some members of it felt uncomfortable about cutting or suggesting cuts for other members of the leadership team who were in here. And so at that time, realizing that, I made the decision to cease all of the meetings with the leadership team because I was getting feedback from people individually that, hey, we really don't want to comment on other people's programs. No different than a principal would say, well, we don't think that this other principal needs to have this over there. We don't think that you know, we think that they should do this differently. So at that point, I basically thought, well, I will just go ahead and come up with the budget reductions. And it's been very challenging because all of this affects student instruction and student achievement. And no matter if you cut a $1,000 job compared to a $100,000 job, you're dealing with resources for students. And when you're dealing with that, everything is important. Ms. Stevens, last year, you know, she lost how many teachers? 6 teachers. And all of our principals, and we're scrambling away to keep the reading programs going and things like that. And how these principals, in such short a time, were able to regroup and continue what they had to do to meet the expectations is certainly, I congratulate them, and I've told them that all the time. It's not an enviable job being a principal.
So you're saying myself and Debbie's not gonna get the same opportunity to meet with Ms. Privet and Mr. Cash as the other two did?
No,
As I recall,
I didn't say that.
no, we didn't miss any meetings, as she implied. She goes to her meeting. I went to every one of my meetings too, I don't miss them.
Well, as I recall, I've been in here as
We've been twice, but,
twice.
or 3 times, but it's been with just Mr. Wright. We had
Well, the
one
team
with
was
the
in
council.
here.
We
Two
had
of
one
those
with the team.
two of those we requested.
Yeah, we requested.
Moving on, and
I want an answer on that.
what's the question?
So we're not gonna be afforded the opportunity to meet with Mr. Cash and Ms. Shook as the Ms. Privet, as the other two did?
I haven't met with Miss Sharon. Sharon was not in on the meeting.
No, I don't.
Sharon left sick the evening that I met. You all met her in the morning, I met him at evening. I think Mr. Cash, was you here in the morning? You were here in the morning? No, he sat in on the evening meeting. And then I sat in on another meeting where the leadership team was in here. And I've been in here to 2 meetings. But I did not get to hear Ms. Sharon's presentation. We heard it from the leadership team.
Or we didn't hear from
That was.
You wasn't in
concerns
here
of
with Ms. Sharon?
Neither one of them.
or Mr. Cash.
That was the,
We only had 1 meeting with the leadership team, and then 2 meetings that we requested.
Okay, during that time,
It was changed, I understand the
And I
budget.
told you all that we probably wouldn't be meeting anymore because of the changing estimate on the figure that I needed to come up with. Therefore, it changed the potential reductions that I was putting on the sheet.
I
And
can
so-
understand that, I don't remember that, and I'm not saying you didn't do it, I'm just saying I can't recall it.
That meeting really had nothing to do with the numbers, as far as the budget was concerned. That meeting was the plan on the restructure of the academy.
If you want to meet with Mr. Cobb, that's fine.
I just want what we got coming, what the other two had.
That is perfectly understandable. We'd be glad to arrange it. Does that answer your question? Now, moving on to the next item is, I would like to ask the board for recommendations and that you all can come up with to reduce this $1 million deficit. And
I could get $100,000 right off the bat.
I want to share some information here that I gave this back to you all back in February, all the board members. This is from Ramona Gardner of the Kentucky Department of Education. She sent a list of budget reduction ideas, and I forwarded this to you. And since then, we here at Central Office have been working on this, and so I've typed out a few things here that be glad to answer any questions on. And I'll just kind of read it to everybody here. Budget reduction ideas. Communicate with everyone asking for suggestions to save money to ensure all staff understand the need to be good stewards of resources, and shift from conversation of cuts to awareness of cost. And I think that during those meetings that the board members have come in and spoke with their leadership team, and the many conversations that I've had with the board members in the past couple of months about situations, I think that I can generally feel that I've tried to meet that obligation. Our leadership team, I've met with them. Tonight we're having a board meeting to gather input from the board members to reduce this salary, reduce this item. Number two, everything must be on the table. No sacred cows. Budget needs to be driven by mission of the board. And again, we've met with the leadership team, and I've asked you all for suggestions to what do you think?
I gave you my list.
And so I feel like I want to make sure that I'm covering all of the needs there. Learn to recycle teaching materials. First thing that comes to mind is we're going to take we're going to recycle paper and cardboard, but that's not what they're talking about. They're talking about the new teaching standards and shifting our resources and textbooks down to because there is new Common Core standards that we have to meet. Shifting our resources and our textbooks and our instructional materials that we have on hand to the appropriate grade level. And I think our principals do a good job of that, of getting the resources that they have and that we've been able to provide them, and they've been able to purchase out of their own money to the grade level or individuals that they need to be at. Participate in an energy review and truly abide by the recommendations for energy savings. I can't tell you how many times that I've told the principals, hey, I was driving down the road last night and I see the lights on in the gym. Turn them off. Costing money. Fortunately, we participate in the consortium where we do have an energy review person that comes to our district, and I think the last figure that he gave me, since we have been a part of that, is we've saved over $50,000. If all of our buildings were on a computer system where he could go into a program and set our temperature for the summer and things, and we would save even more money. But our principals and our assistant principals are aware of that, and they do a good job of that. The next thing is review phone bills, run assigned phone lines and eliminate unused services. Well, we're doing that by abolishing the staff over at a district building, and that's going to be a savings of $7,500 to us. These are concrete suggestions that were given to me by the Ramona Gardner KDE. The next item is review the staffing policy and use maximum caps. We changed the staffing policy. We've increased it by 1 at McCreary Middle School and McCreary Central High School. Let me just urge a word of caution about that. Yeah, we gained $100,000. Our staffing policy is still below what the state recommends. But we had to do that. We didn't have a choice. We had to do that. And that's not, fortunately, we were way below the state recommendation, and now we still are. But I would urge caution in doing that again, because that puts more students in teachers' classrooms. The next item on the agenda is adjust the section 6 per pupil allocation after the second month of attendance reports are prepared. We've done that. That's reducing instructional money at the schools, $58,000. Don't replace central office or support staff retirees. Just have existing staff absorb extra duties.
Oh, I thought it was actually cut some people out here, but it's just not replacing.
Well, if you're not replacing, you're.
Well, I understand that, but, yeah.
Yeah. And you can see, I think it's $105,000
Right.
where we've saved money there. And so.
What did we cut there to save $105,000?
We are transferring positions that we've lost last year and will lose this year, and people here at central office will assume their duties. That's about all I can say.
Okay.
Recalculate mileage cost of field trips and mandate full reimbursement for field trips from schools and student organizations. Right now, the board's adopted mileage rate that we receive from schools going on field trips is $1.31. That doesn't reimburse the board back the cost. So in the near future, you may be looking at increasing that amount of money that field trips have to reimburse the board. Some school districts right now are over $2. Some of them charge $4. For instance, if we charged McCreary Middle School, if they was going on a trip and we raised it to $2.31 a mile from $1.31 a mile, and they was going to Knoxville, they would reimburse us $100. That trip would cost them an extra $100. And certainly the general fund is picking up a lot of transportation costs. And we do that so the programs at the schools won't have to continually go out into the community and ask for money and do fundraisers and things like that. So the board could save a lot of money. I'm saying $50,000. But you all would have to increase the amount that you're going to make the people on the field trips pay. Dispose or sell buildings. We have Smithtown Elementary and the building out that is, we want to sell next year, hopefully. Review substitute salaries, monitor attendance of administrators, faculty, and staff. My principals can speak to this. I'm on them all the time about, let's get our teachers to school, let's get our instructional aides, everyone to school. It's important. Everything is centered around student achievement. And they took an initiative 2 years ago. We met here at central office to save the district right at $250,000. And if the principals and teachers hadn't taken it upon themselves to be conscientious about that and spread the word, last year, we would have cut $1.3 million. Everything is important.
Is there a certain amount budgeted just for?
Last year, you know, this current year, we have $250,000 budgeted for subs, and we will exceed that amount. But the principals and myself are working on a plan, and we're gonna reduce that. And the same thing goes for certified, for classified staff, about $218,000 or $220,000, and we're gonna take care of it. And one way that we can do it is say, Miss Stevens' school, you know, we could allocate $20,000 to her school, or $25,000 to pay for subs throughout the entire year. Say she's currently using $40,000 worth of subs right now. And I say to Miss Stevens, I'm gonna give you $25,000, this is gonna cover your subs. You use $15,000 of this, I'll give you 10 at the end of the year, and you can use it for yourself. That'll be an initiative. And I'm sure that, you know, we offer attendance incentives to our staff now, and a lot of them take advantage of it. Review necessity of all positions. You know, that gets back to abolishing and not creating positions here at central office. And when someone retires, we move their responsibilities to someone else here. Ask Mr. Anderson. He's, you know, ask these instructional supervisors who've had to take on more when people retire. We have people off here at work now, and I don't hire anybody. I don't get anybody to come in and sub. I put them on someone else. And that's what you have to do to just survive. And they do a good job of performing those duties. Review transportation routes. Last year we cut several routes. And we also decreased the amount of school buses coming in from our schools just carrying a minimal amount of students to the high school and the middle school. That saved us $15,000. Our director of transportation, Donna, constantly works on reducing cost. And now, you know, we're able to track the fuel mileage on our buses. And so I feel like we have a lot of things that are monitored. And I'll move on down. Review maintenance cost. All the maintenance is approved by me. I sign off on it. And I certainly tell all my maintenance supervisors to don't buy anything new. My principal's going to attest to this. You know, piece it together. Don't buy the $25,000 unit that we need. Keep it running. Well, Mike Elam's been in my office for 2 years, wanting a $5,000 unit for the furnace at McCreary Middle. And I finally said, since we can take it out of our in construction fund, that we get it. So we're not loose with the checkbook. We can't be. Ensure old construction projects are officially closed. We do that. Review all contracts, you know, and she's put down here with the health department. Well, you know what? Our health department, that's certainly provides us with a great service. And it's partially funded by general fund. And hopefully we can continue to do that. You know, that's something that you need to hear from the principals at some point. But that's a cost that we're paying for. And they're invaluable. I know when I was a principal, they were right there all the time. Combined clerical duties of federal programs. We do that. Here at central office, our instructional supervisors have 8 or 10 programs that they manage. Our principals out there are constantly given more programs to take care of and monitor at the school level. Freeze, you know, here's where we are. We're at the point of let's get serious and difficult decisions. This is where we're at. Freezing field trips and other expenses. You know, the school board pays for district regional, and state competition. We picked that up. And I think that our kids and parents appreciate it. You know, they're taxpayers. They certainly, you want your academic team to not have to go out here to whatever store and sell brownies for a month to get to go to Lexington. We do a lot of good things, and hopefully all of these things that are on this, you know, some of them we will reduce, some of them we'll keep, and some of them we'll look for suggestions from the board.
On this one, you've got school board covers the district, and now this is for students. What about the staff that go to the state tournament?
They don't cover that. You know, that was approved by the board last year.
We don't cover that?
You did this year because you all approved it.
Not me.
You voted to approve it.
But I don't think that we should send the basketball team or the coaches or football or whatever to a state if we don't have a team there. If we have a team playing, then by all means we send them.
Then,
Go to school.
then put it on the agenda. We'll get it on the agenda.
I've asked for it 3 times. It's still not been on a budget reduction.
Create a central warehouse for supplies. We've looked at that. We don't have an office space big enough to do that. That we probably save 10 or 15%. Go to a half-day kindergarten. I don't think that's an option.
I don't either.
That would definitely impact student achievement. You know, we're just funded for half-day kindergarten. Some other school districts are taking that measure, and they're just going to half-day
I can attest to that.
to save money.
I can sure attest to that. In Madison County where my kids go, they have half-a-day kindergarten. My girls have had to pay for preschool, daycare, and all of that because they work. And, you know, they can't go back and forth in order to take their kids to preschool and kindergarten. And it's expensive too.
You know, the next item on the agenda is to raise taxes to 4%. I don't think that the community burdened with the high rate of unemployment that we have here, that's something that, you know, we should do as a last measure.
I agree, but I don't agree going to 4% at any means. When I asked you, what would we actually get if we just went 1%? And that wouldn't be that big of a raise, but we never got those figures.
Well, I can tell you that going to 4% would only increase us, I don't say only, $68,000.
Also 1% would be way low.
By increasing taxes by 4%, we don't increase 68,000.
Just because the majority of your land is federal land, and we don't get that 4% on that federal land. We only get it on the actual property. And I did the background check on when he asked me to get that 4% figure. One year we did do the 4% figure, and instead of increasing by 4%, which it should have, it didn't. And I don't know if that was because of the property assessments. There's a lot of calculations in that property tax, but going to 4% in the prior year didn't give us any extra money.
Does the prison or the job corps pay taxes?
The next item on the list is assign journalism classes to public relations duties for the district. You know, Jeff Terry and I were talking about this yesterday, and what a positive impact that this would have for communicating things that we're doing at the school, at our schools, to the community. And you know, I've talked about this many times, and having a radio broadcast system out here at the high school. And so,
That'd be wonderful.
you know, we have a lot of things are considered, and it's just like when I was talking to Jeff, I said, Jeff, you know, I've given you 50 things to do, and no different than I do my principals and assistant principals. And having a journalism class might be number 40 to you, because you're answering questions for the State Department, and you're getting this all these computer software programs going. And so that would be great. And I've even talked to Greg about, teaching some classes a couple of years ago and sharing his expertise and certainly bringing Janie in and just, so that would be good.
No volunteer.
Know the deadlines for non-renewal of staff and be prepared to act to do those. That's the reason that we have to have our budget approved next Thursday night. We have to get letters out to the people who we're transferring and the people's jobs that we're abolishing and the people that we're moving from school to school. This is a dynamic, complicated process when you're dealing with staff members who have X amount of years of service. And certainly you have to go by seniority. And you have to take all those things into consideration of who bumps who, where who's going. And this takes a couple of months to get in action, or to plan on, to give you all this document next Thursday night. Difficult decisions. Closing schools with low enrollment. We don't have any schools with low enrollment. Administer a hiring freeze. Our schools operate within their site-based allocations. They can hire if they have a vacancy. That's their decision.
More money.
It's their money. The jobs here at the local district, we have absorbed them into offices here, and will probably absorb more in the near future. Eliminate extra teachers. We don't have extra teachers.
I thought we were staffed at 85 and we're supposed to be at 70.
We have extra, we have our staffing, our staffing allotment, the state recommended guideline is 75%. We're at 84. We were at 84. We won't be after this. We're knocking that on down. You have to get that in line with you have to align your expenditures up with your revenues. And this is the reason, along with the reduction in taxes and things like that and reduced student enrollment, that we're having to make these reductions. Reduced personal days, extended days, or extra service. We've done that. We did that last year. We reduced the pay here at central office, the administrators' pay out here, and the principals, and we reduced teachers' pay who were getting in the extended days. And their question to me was, well, you're reducing me 5 days or 10 days. I can't remember exactly how many days it was, but you expect me to come in and continue to do the same work. Our counselors, 18 days at the high school. I know that our counselors at all of our schools have already worked over 20 days. We're not paying them. They're doing it for free.
We're fixing a lawsuit then.
Could be. Eliminate dental insurance and other unnecessary fringes. Providing these, health benefits and dental benefits to our staff members
It means a lot to them.
increases their attendance. And so however means that we can help them, not take away from our students. We're at the point where difficult decisions have to be made. And I just want to hear from some of the board members, Mr. Gibson, you said you can come up with $100,000, let's hear it.
Well, I understand.
And I
that.
want you to tell me how it's going to impact everything.
Well, I think since Kentucky has gone to a core content, that we don't need 3 instructional supervisors. And I think that one of those, this is if they retire, we've saved $90,000 to $100,000 there. I also feel that the part-time position that we have filled now, if we eliminate that position, we're at $150,000 savings. I also think we can take cuts off of assistant coaches. you know, knock that money down a little bit.
We've already
That's on there.
reduced $21,000.
That's on there.
Oh, I didn't see that, I'm
You'll see
sorry.
it.
That's on there.
That was one of the things that I
That's
gave you
been
all
out there
back in
since,
February.
since day one.
That's $10,000.
Yeah, it was just, you know.
There's an additional
No,
to that.
it's
That's the reason
20,500.
it keeps moving, and we probably don't want to get into the specifics of every one of those,
Oh, no.
because that figure can move tomorrow morning.
But, let me see, I didn't bring my paper that I had wrote down all kinds of things
Where are you gonna transfer those duties to?
on. Well,
That's your decision.
and with the core content, those duties are not as big or, as it was before, when they were having to figure out all the curriculums and stuff. That is my understanding, we're talking to another board member from another school.
Well, we'll certainly write that down.
I mentioned it last meeting we had, and that's the last I heard of it.
So what you're saying is since we went to this core content,
Kentucky core content.
our duties and responsibilities of the principals and teachers.
No, I didn't say that, the duties of the principals and the teachers. I said the instructional supervisors, because it's spelled out now what they're going to take. It's laid out there that one person could do that job, working with each principal at each school. Do I know that for a fact? No. But I know that we have 3 positions, and I feel that 1 to 2 of those positions can be eliminated.
We'll certainly write that down.
And might as well throw it out there. One cut that I would never do, never do, is close the alternative school.
It's not closing.
You're moving it to the high school in a contained room that is,
There's gotta be some laws against that too, keeping kids locked in one class.
the age of dropout is going to 18, so these kids are gonna be stuck in one room all day long at no savings, because you still gotta find jobs for these teachers that work with them. And we have the room down there, we have a great alternative school. These kids are not gonna come to school because Bill Taylor and Cash gets out and brings them to school.
Well, can I ask you a question, and you brought up the academy there.
Yes, I do.
And you said that the students will be stuck in one school, and what did you say?
No, one classroom was my
And
understanding.
what did you
There's
say?
gotta be some kind of laws against that.
Being locked
Who
in.
said that they was gonna
And
be?
you told us.
They're
that.
not gonna be filtered into the regular classrooms or mainstreamed in, are they? You have some students that'll have questionable backgrounds, and they may be a one mistake student that just messed up one time and has to come to this academy. In the environment that they're in right now, they have a sense of pride. They get to come through their own doors, they get to go to different classrooms, they have the principal, they have the teachers. They're not totally segregated. It's like the freshman academy out at the high school. You know, I was told that was just gone. Well, it's not. I feel that these students, when you bring them in, they're not going to be allowed to go to breaks with the other students, or are they? Are they going to be able to go to the lunchroom at the same time as the other students?
The high school principal and the high school administrators, it's up to the board, and we'll provide you with that information. The board will make the decision on some of these potential areas of reductions. And it's up to the administrators and the council at the specific school to determine how they're gonna operate that program. I don't tell them.
That's the meeting we missed, David.
Oh, okay. Well, I don't understand why we would move it. I don't understand why when every school in the nation is getting SRO officers, we cut. Why report after report after report is showing alternative schools and the benefits that they're doing. We cut.
What kind of policy are we gonna come up with when we have to implement this good dropout rate. Right now, we have it.
My child's going to school till, he's probably past 18-year-old. These kids are going to school till they're 18, you're only talking about those that are dropping out at 16, you know,
The
and
biggest
raising
portion
age.
of them are at the
and
academy.
attending.
And those that drop
50 to
out,
100
they become
in a
a
given
problem
time.
to society. And if we can keep them in school and we can get them that education and we can show them that somebody cares.
What's gonna happen when you get these kids off, okay, they ride the bus. That's just one scenario. These kids are gonna be more or less segregated to one or two classrooms.
Yes.
Okay, bullying is a big issue. Some of these kids at the academy are not gonna put up with that. They can't be bullied at the middle school, they're not gonna be. I mean, they're a big part of them, middle school kids, know they're high school kids, so they're gonna bully a high school kid. But when you put them with their own peers, you're gonna have problems. Major problems.
What kind of problems are we gonna have?
Fights for one. I mean, you already got a bullying issue at every school. Every school in this district. Every school in America has a bullying issue.
And I guess the things that you're speaking about, and certainly valid arguments, is if the board elects to go along with these proposed reductions, that's something that the high school staff deals with.
This is scenario number 5 that I've got in my hand, 3/27/2013. This was the last one that we met on that you gave to us. All 5 scenarios have changed on a lot of these reductions, except MCA restructuring. All 5 of them.
The last scenario I've got is 3, March 15th, so you've got something I don't have.
Yes, you did, I don't know.
That's the other 2 meetings that we requested. All 5 have that one on there.
I can assure you that, and I think we're up to scenario number 8 right now.
As the board members, we've not seen the other.
Because, like I said at the beginning of the.
This is our decision, we're the one that gets, something happens, we're the one that takes the heat for it.
Once we have identified the end figure, and we have looked at all of the personnel involved in where we're gonna place them and things like that, I will give you all the potential reductions and you all can look at it.
We have a
You
week to
mentioned-
do this.
You mentioned that the MCA is on the proposed reductions. I can guarantee you that 80% of those proposed reductions are on number 1 through 7. And, you know, now that you kind of brought it up, and you're talking about teachers and things like that, when we took the big hit in Title I last year, and I forgot how many staff members that we reduced out of that, and the number of teachers that we took out of Mitzi's school, and out of Miss Ross's school, and things like that, there wasn't a word said.
I believe there was.
There wasn't, there, you know, there,
I remember last year, I threw a fit, had to cut 16 teachers.
right.
Yeah. Is this where the $1 million is what got us in, I mean, we had that grant for $1 million and we hired people and then we should have let them go, but we hired them again and that put us $1 million
Right.
short.
Any decision on there is gonna be a difficult decision. It's a difficult decision when I put them on there because I know the faces that go along with the spaces. I know the families. And I know but the first thing you have to consider is the student achievement. And you talked about the academy, you know, it needs to stay right there at the McCreary Middle School. What academics are they losing by going to the high school?
I don't think they're losing any academics, but they're not gonna be changing classes.
Who said?
So, no, okay. So you're mainstreaming these students into the regular classroom.
again, you know,
Well, Ms. Shook is here,
from
can she address that?
From my discussions with Ms. Shook, we have a
It's not
designated,
Ms. Shook.
Ms. Ross.
Ms. Ross, Ms. Group, Ms. Shook.
She's Shook to me.
We have a
You got it right here, Mr. Ratch, you got MCA restructure, moving McCreary Central Academy to McCreary Central High School, transfer 2 teachers to McCreary Central High School, non-renew 2 teachers, reduce 1 principal. So you're putting 2 teachers to teach 70 kids.
No, you've got teachers at Central
It's
that's
already
teaching, it's already there.
That's not what he told us in the meeting.
And you're reading off what today's document.
The last one we received, that's all I've got to go
If you're at the high
by, because you
school,
didn't
you're
provide
gonna
us
be
with the rest of the information.
And when
If
is
you're at
that?
middle school, you're gonna be teaching.
I understand. I think that we're not doing
327.
justice to these kids. We are here for the students, nothing else. I'm not here for the teachers or the parents, so I'm here for the students, to do what's best for them. And what's best for them is to make them feel like they matter. Because the teachers are gonna do their jobs, the principals are gonna do their jobs, because they do outstanding jobs. So I don't have to worry about them. But I've gotta worry about these kids that we're pushing aside because
What? Well,
It's sad when you got a kid sees you at the academy and then asks staff if you were there to serve their eviction notice. I mean, that's sad.
you mentioned something to make the kids feel like they're what?
important.
Well, why would-
Alternative kids feel like when they come in there, they feel like they have.
Well, explain to me how the staff at McCreary Central High School or the administrators or teachers would not make them feel welcome.
You cannot mainstream certain students with certain backgrounds in with the regular students.
And I think that we have a competent principal down here and a leadership team that can address all of those concerns. And again, that's at the school level.
Have you went in and talked to these students? Have you asked these students, anybody, what did they think about this?
No.
No.
We have both principals here. Can we hear from them tonight?
Whichever one of y'all wants to go first.
Ms. Ross, what would be the routine of these students?
The meeting that you discussed earlier, that happened on a half day when I was sick, and I came in at Mr. Rice's request to present a proposal to the leadership team based on information that he requested I look at. Did occur. I was sick, I came on in anyway. But the numbers that I looked at were based on exiting students, current students that were there. They're based on their attendance, their graduation proficiency rate, which is a number assigned to them based on how many years they've been in school, what age they are, what grade level they are, how many credits they have, their discipline, their attendance. And based on that plan, we felt like that we came up with a model where there are some students, like you said, that are going to have additional support. They're not going to be able to mainstream, as you said, out into the regular classroom. There is a group of students that are able to go back to the regular classroom. A few, not a lot, but a few. And there's a few in the middle that can transition back and forth. You know, that high school operates on 53 certified teachers. It has 776 kids today. We manage 9 career technical programs, 3 arts and humanities programs, RTI programs, a tiered program for science, English, and mathematics. And we do a pretty dang good job of that. And we afford opportunities considering IEPs, their test data that fluctuates every 9 weeks, and we place them accordingly based on their need. And that's what the whole design is of that academy, based on student needs.
Right.
And I think that you're not giving us enough credit.
Oh,
That
no, I
we couldn't
give
come
you
up with a
credit.
plan to address
22
their needs, yes. I mean, I feel like that, you know, based on, Mike knows those students because he works with them every day. I'm looking at what they have to say on paper.
Are
And I
you going to
agree
be
with that.
able to send someone out to get them out of bed if they don't come into school?
The same people that work there now, I'm assuming would do that.
I don't know. That would be Mr. Cash and Mr. Taylor.
I'm assuming that SR would come with them to assist.
I don't know.
I know that we'll have to have additional support in the building in order to pull it off in terms of traffic flow and scheduling. And we're also going to talk about administrative duties, you know, who's going to handle discipline. We'll have to talk about who's gonna develop transcripts, design the schedule, which I'm assuming is gonna come to.
I know, it's gonna be a lot of extra work, but no, I give you full credit, I know what you can do. I'm just saying,
It's not the high school, it's the kids.
it's the kids, I'm thinking of the
But
kids.
there are kids, those are kids that should be at the high school, and for whatever reason, need additional support to be there.
Some of them.
Some of them. And some of them have never come through the door, they go straight to him from
Yeah,
other
and,
places.
and some of them, you know, need to be in this atmosphere. I just want, no, I've been up at the high school, I was so amazed with those art drawings out in the
Over the
hallway.
past 4 years, our attendance has increased, our test scores have steadily
Right.
increased over the past 4 years. Our discipline is down, and our atmosphere is a good atmosphere. And I think that some of them do need to come back regardless of what your decision is to do that. But like Mr. Wright said, you know, that's your decision to do based on the numbers, and it will be my responsibility to make it work.
Okay.
Okay?
Yeah, and I believe you could do it, but I
Thank
still
you.
feel,
And I'm considered the kids too. I'm just saying, it's based on what you decide. I'll work it.
Ms. Cash.
I don't know what I'd say. It seems like every year I'm in front of the board begging for something, and, you know, under the leadership, we get cut every year, even though we got Obama stimulus, and we got this money, and we got that money. It seems to go all the schools, but we seem to get cut every year, whether it's Title I money, you don't need it, which Title I's addressed for the most at-risk kids in any given school district. It's gone. Everything we get's gone. We lost 2 teachers last year and 2 aides last year. That's not brought up. We have 72 kids enrolled today, and I think we do a dang good job also of dealing with the most difficult children in the district. I had a conversation today, and the teachers here, you can ask them. We've got 4 certified teachers, 1 in each area, and a special needs teacher now. 72 kids. Is that bad?
No.
Most alternative schools, it's like 12-to-1 ratio. We have Miss Walker, due to scheduling and losing 2 certified, when we had to do a schedule, which I asked for help, and it's my job to do it, so I did it. How many students do you have in your English 1 and English 2 class? 29 students. Now, these are the most at-risk students that need the more help. I'm not saying nothing against the high school. They do a great job.
Oh, no.
And we do a great job, but we never get recognized for nothing in this district, except cut, cut, cut. Alternatives not needed. My student will go when he's 18, well, that's great, but you're not like everybody else.
No.
You know, when board members, I've asked to come down and see what we do. You know, Debbie's been down, Brandon's down, Nelda come down, you know, before the election.
What? What?
You come down before
What?
the election.
Are you
But,
bringing the election into
Miss,
this?
I'm speaking, if you give me the floor, and I'll sit down and you can have your turn. The thing of it is, we work our tail off, and I guarantee you that it's the best dollar you spend in this district for what we do to those kids.
I agree.
We're not successful at keeping every one of them. We went through 89 students this year, and we've got 72 now. We just enrolled a student today that was a dropout at the high school after her first 9 weeks. And I enrolled her. We're going to try to help that kid get what we can help her get towards the end of the year. We're not asking for no glory from anybody here. We're down there, we work, we make it a place for the kids to come to school. They want to come. I've never turned a student down at the high school sent. You know, it's stuck on our people here saying, well, you had 48 students start the year. That's what we're basing your funding on.
Right.
Well, we went through 89 and we got 72 now. So, and actually, if you look at the numbers we got now, we got 28 new students that didn't go through the high school doors. 28. We got 14 that were dropouts that I got to come back. So if you take the 28 to 14 and times it by the $5,600 something we get, and I know you want to say, well, we only get $3,900 per pupil. Each kid brings in more than $3,900. It's on a SEEK allocation report. And each kid brings in, and that includes their transportation, you name it. That's money gone. Just like I passed out to you all time and time again, what the Kentucky Center for Safe School, Kentucky Department of Education, literature. Feedback, except we got to cut the academy. We got to cut the academy. You know, is it cutting the academy? I think in the meeting, we're gonna save $200,000 by cutting the academy. You're still gonna put everybody in a teaching position. They're all well tenured. The only difference is you're gonna cut me as a principal. Is that because I was the only principal stand up and say cut me 10% to keep the program? You know, I got hard feelings because I said I'd take the pay cut. And it's not because I draw a big fat government check from the VA. It's because we want to work for those kids. All it is politics, and I'm not saying it's corruption. But the thing is, we're done there for kids. We work with them. We don't turn one away. We take them. And we have a transition committee. The ex-chairman that resigned approached me and said, "You're accused of hoarding kids and not letting them go back to the high school." And I said, so he asked to send a policy. I sent him the policy how we do. Myself, the principal of the high school and the superintendent, they send their representatives and we meet and look at the criteria. Not one time, I think Mr. Gilreath's here, he's usually the one who's done it for the last 5 or 6 years. Have I ever had to vote to break a tiebreaker to say, this kid goes to the academy, this kid goes to the high school? Not one time. And do you ever remember me having to vote? We look at their records. We look at their academics, their behavior. We look at their attendance. We're not hiding nothing. You all more than welcome to come down and see what we do. You got the teachers here if you want them to ask any questions.
Well, I
We
think-
work with the kids. I mean, and all teachers do. It hurt the middle school considerably, and I don't know about Mitzi School or Whitley Elementary, but we took a lot of kids, and when the middle school program, when we lost staff, couldn't provide it. And I think the middle school, if you had Mr. Darty here, he would strongly attest that it's affected their school. You know, now they got a sub, a sort of a alternative sub that they asked to put these kids in. We go through anywhere, average about 36 to 38 kids, 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. Now they're gone. And if we had those same middle school that we had last year, our numbers would be up consistent with what they have been for the last 6 years. So, but I guarantee you, and you can ask any of the teachers, you won't find $1 better spent than it is down there. Because most of those kids, you know, and it's nothing against the high school. I mean, they do a great job, but they've got 700 and something kids, staff. And when you discipline a kid, it's not, you just can't walk in, it's factory line, you got this, get out here. We sit and we try to talk to them. We try to get to the reason of their behaviors. We try to correct it. You know, so, you know, I don't know, but it's always the academy. You know, very people know what the academy does, how many
Would you
students we
explain to us
graduated.
how your teachers, how it works? They go to English and stay English for how long?
When I took over the academy years ago, the superintendent then wanted me to change the academy. We changed it to make it where students were changing classes. Students were taught, they were learning, they were doing like a normal school. It's just a smaller, scaled down version for these kids that can't interact in a bigger society. The teachers are here. We've got a certified person in each content area.
You
that
have
the
a
kids-
English, you have a math, and a
Science,
science, and a
social
social
studies,
studies. That's your 4 teachers?
and then a special needs teacher.
A special
that
needs.
Come aboard around in January, February timeframe.
And they rotate. How long do they stay in the class?
We got 51-minute classes throughout the day. They rotate and then they do credit recovery through what we do as teachers.
Okay,
It's-
let me ask you another question. Do they have PE?
Yes,
Okay. They have music?
they have a arts and humanities class that is arts, music, and literature, and Ms. Walker.
It's the 4 basic, it's visual art, drama, dance, and music, and I teach it.
You teach
But
that?
they don't, it's more of a history and the elements of it, it's not actual music.
Okay, I will ask Sharon then. Will they be rotating music, PE, art, and all that if they come to your,
If, based on their need, their ILP, that would accommodate that.
does every kid down there have an IEP?
An
Every kid
ILP,
down there?
ILP.
a learning plan.
individual learning plan
May I
and
say
IEPs in special needs students.
Right. Several years ago, I wasn't the principal at the time, but some of the students did transition back to the high school for some of their career electives and some humanities classes. And I felt like that was a good arrangement. I don't know what happened with that, but I felt it was very beneficial for those students to come out for humanities classes, electives that they really wouldn't have access to, like agriculture and auto mechanics, very hands-on type career building things. Regardless of what you all decide on that, I feel like that we need to go back to some kind of arrangement like that, where those students that are able to do that would have at least opportunity to be exposed to it.
Yes.
Because, you know, they're his students, but ultimately they're scores.
Well, we've talked about that for years. Students that are at risk will flourish in a vocational type
Right.
setting. And, you know, and we talked about especially ROTC, that'd be a great class for ROTC.
Do you have, numbers that have graduated and have went on and made successful?
If you look at the non-cognitive data, our students are just as equal. Ours is getting jobs, going to school. They're the same students. They're the same kids. There's no difference. They just, the ones that I get have made mistakes, and we're there to help them. We're there to counsel them. We're going to give them that extra needed
Support.
support. And when they do meet the criteria and they go to the district placement committee, the committee decides. It's not me. Hoarding kids has been suggested year after year after year. The committee meets and they decide. You know, go ahead.
Can I say two things? I've worked in the middle school for 10 years, and I've been at the academy for 6 years. I taught 7th grade science for 10 years. And so I have two perspectives, you see what I'm saying? Okay, so something that I notice is that the kids that are down there now, they all have different needs because they come from so many different wide backgrounds. Things that you wouldn't even dream of that kids go through. High foster care rate, unbelievable.
I understand that, I know exactly.
Okay,
Exactly.
now the other side of the coin is I look at my 6-year-old little girl, you know, coming through our school system, and I hate to say something negative about our kids, but they do better in our environment than they do. They take more away from the traditional classroom setting as a traditional classroom teacher because you're dealing with their academic issues along with their emotional issues. And you know, when you have 31 kids, you're teaching 7th grade science, you're trying to get scores up, and you've got 7 kids that you can ship down to the academy out of that entire 7th grade group. That makes everything so much better for the 7th grade teachers because they can actually reach the kids that are gifted. They can bring the kids that are in the middle up, and you can work with those kids. And that's what he was referring to with the middle school, because when that program is gone, there's 10, 15, 20, 25 kids that are in the middle school that could be down in the academy with a certified middle school teacher, and it would be out of the middle school teacher's hair. I hate to put it that way, but you know what I'm talking about. And it gives all the teachers upstairs a better opportunity to actually teach the kids that can focus on learning. These kids are trying to focus on just their basic needs. You understand?
Yes, it's a major difference.
That's
Should
all I
know
wanted.
those.
That's all I wanted to say
Privilege.
because
You
I've seen
know
both
those.
sides of it.
She has been one of these people like I was when we worked up there. You take their problems home with you. Same way with Edwin. And Mike is addressing those issues in the alternative school.
And
Her
Sharon
school-
will address those issues.
Sharon
in
has
the alternative school.
700 students. See,
Miss,
you've got your
you don't
mind made up.
understand.
You're not,
Well,
you're
you do
not.
too, Debbie. Do
Yes,
you
I
not?
do. Yes, I do.
You do too.
Ms. Shook, you've never come down to see what we do. I've invited you. Come down and look at, and just see what goes on.
I have an idea what you do.
An idea,
You know.
an idea. Come and see.
One thing that,
You know, I have adopted a little girl. You know, I know what you're dealing with down there. So I've seen drugs and deal with the drug issues.
We deal with a lot of students
You know,
that come straight
and
out of
Not just drug
residential
issues,
facilities.
But
The girl whose dad's
harder to
right
deal
there.
with, harder to deal with is the girl who what?
The girl whose dad's right there. I
Let's
mean,
not get into
it's, well, I don't even know if that's going on, but I'm saying that's what some of
Exactly.
these issues these are.
Exactly.
And I worked with special needs, mainstreaming them into some of the classrooms. It didn't work. You mainstream them in, but it caused the teacher more work, because the teacher has to teach to 4 different levels, where they were just teaching to 1 or 2 levels. And, I just think that we have to do everything, whatever it is, that's gonna make it easier on the students. And if you're not here for the kids, I think we need to get out.
Thank you all, appreciate it. Any decision that you make regarding any of these items on the budget is going to impact student instruction. The board has a very important decision to make. You know, you talk about the students that attend the academy, you talk about the resources that we're abolishing at our schools that affect achievement at Pine Primary, at the intermediate school, at all of our schools. This decision that you all will make next is going to impact all of it. And
In my opinion, that just needs to cut off really, to get that out of your head, but there's no reason to cut it. Because you can't, until I see, other than a spreadsheet, showing me that saves $200,000, I've not seen any proof other than a spreadsheet. I've not seen any munis, anything showing that.
let me direct you back to your conversation back when we had our meeting in the board office with 2 of our instructional supervisors, and that you met with after work. And please correct me if I've stated this wrong. Once we gave you, and you keep saying, well, where's this going to save $200,000 and things like that. When we gave you a line item of how this was going to save $200,000, not only on the academy, but on the other programs that we were having. Ms. Gibson, you said, I perfectly understand now, I get it. Mr. Kidd said, I see it.
Well, Christy told me that, I went and asked her, if she'll remember, how are we saving $200,000? And she said it's salaries.
I asked the same thing. Well, you have to replace these. You're still having to pay these salaries.
And once again, I'll have to think about that, because I don't recall it all.
Every one of them teachers are tenured over there. You have to put them somewhere.
I'm gonna get into positions and not faces right now.
Right.
That's what I'm saying. Every teacher, that is a position. That's not talking about faces.
Right. And we have teachers in our district that are non-tenured, and that's where the savings comes from. And also, we have other areas there that we have to, one thing that.
So you're talking, what you're saying is move teachers that are non-tenured, place these teachers that are, these positions that are tenured into those positions at other schools. That's your savings of $200,000.
That's a potential way.
However, you can cut 2 positions, 3 positions at this board office and save about $300,000.
And that'll be, you know.
Well, I've asked for it 3 times to put on one of these, and it's yet to be done. Which I've not seen 6, 7, or 8 scenarios, so.
Any other suggestions? Any principles?
Yeah, you can cut the, by, according to state policy, the director of pupil personnel is not a full-time position, not required to be a full-time position. You can cut that to a part-time position. Days at the job corps, they were not cut any days last year. They had 31 days. Yet every teacher, just about everybody had extra days in our district. In the school system actually got cut days, but we didn't cut the Career Institute.
And
That makes no sense.
And you'll find on the next item that I send you all on the budget reductions, that some of the areas that you're talking about have been considered and added. But as I stated earlier, you know, this is a moving number that we're, and along with that moving number is moving staff members. You know, I can't say that I'm gonna, go out here and abolish Ms. Gibson's job when she has X amount of years active service. I have to place you somewhere.
Right. I know
And-
we're having a lot of
Yeah.
retirees.
Yeah.
And that's gonna work out. I know
Right.
there's two at the high school.
So the document that you receive and will receive is, you know, considerate of everything.
And when are we gonna receive these?
As soon as it's completed, and I'll have.
26 hours again before the meeting?
You'll have it,
When our policy says 10 days?
you'll have it
You have something else?
enough time to come in and ask me questions.
Now, some of us work for a living, Mr. Wright. I work 3 jobs. So I don't have, if you give it to me in ample time according to board policy, yeah, I can sit and look at this. But when we get it 26 hours,
Be
before
glad
board
to
meeting like
send it,
this.
be glad to send it to you as soon as we have it completed, and we almost have it completed, and it'll be sent to you.
So we're breaching policy. Ms. Huff, what can be done about that?
I want to look at the policy, and I guess the question would be, is there some,
It's continuous. It's an ongoing since I've been on the board.
so what it was, and I apologize because I'm not familiar with the exact policy, I know I can pull it up online. Does it say that
I'll find an email
the
to
board
you.
packet is supposed to be provided 10 days in advance? Okay.
I didn't know it was 10 days, I thought it was 5 days. And pretty normally, I've had mine in 5 days.
You have. I can show you every email where I've got it. I save every email I've ever got from Mr. Wright or
Okay, I
Melanie,
have mine
showing that
saved.
I've got it, showing that it's up.
And your board packet don't come to you 5 days? Last month it didn't come to
This
you
one,
5
no,
days?
absolutely not.
You didn't get yours 5 days?
I got this one, I think I got the email at 3:30 yesterday saying your board packet is
Okay,
ready.
that's about what time I got it.
I
All the
usually get
board-
mine on a Friday.
All the board packets are
Yeah.
emailed out at the same
I-
time. Melanie emails the board packets out.
Well, I guess, I mean, it's a legitimate concern.
Absolutely,
In my
when
experience in the
next week,
districts-
7 days from the night, we've got to cut positions.
Now,
Or
I've
do-
worked with a bunch of other districts, I've never gotten them 10 days in advance. Usually they're putting the packets together and.
We are reactive instead of proactive.
Well, and I'm simply saying that it may be a situation where I'm not sure how current or accurate a board packet could be if it's prepared that far in advance of the meeting. It's not unusual in my experience, and that's just
I know the
anecdotal.
chairman, the previous
but
chairman,
you
Mr.
get
Jones,
updates.
he had the same, and me and him talked about this. And he said he'd asked Mr. Wright if he could have his on Friday, that way he could have all weekend to look at, when the rest of us were getting a Monday or Tuesday. That was made available to me. And I'm not asking for everything on there to be completed.
Of course, this is a special call meeting, so I don't think that, I
It's
don't
not just
know.
special, it's regular board meeting.
Right, no, that's something to say we obviously need to look at. A little off topic for the agenda for tonight, but that's something we obviously need to.
If I get this next one 26 hours in advance, I'll sustain on
We
everything.
need to make sure that board policy and board practice conform, so we need to either change the policy to conform to practice, or change practice to conform to policy, one or the other.
Mr. Cash has something to say.
Well, one thing that was in the McCreary County record on August 20, 2012, it was reported to the board that the academy had enrollment of 51 students at the beginning of the year. And that if it doesn't pick up to around 66, we'll be having a shortcoming of funds. Well, you know, and when I talked to the Kentucky Department of Education, one of the CPAs, we went over the numbers, and that was close. Well, right now, we're about 62 average for the year, so we're about 4 students off. And then at the, I think it was the January meeting, I think it was Ms. Huff's first meeting, we had a party lot afterwards. But, you know, all of a sudden, we jumped up from having 144,000 shortfall at mid-year, when we had 72 current students, to 190,000 shortfall. You know, this year, we've got 14 dropouts that dropped out from the high school. We try to help the high school in their non-cognitive data, the graduation rate. That's 14 kids times $5,612 not coming to this district, plus the high school graduation rate goes down. We also got 28 new students that have never walked in the doors of McCreary Central High School because of their severity. Mr. Gilroy can attest to some of the kids that come through, they can't be placed there because of their behaviors where they've been. The other question I had, and I brought to the board, and I never got a clear answer, and maybe I'm just ignorant, is the at-risk monies that this district gets anywhere from $1.1 to $1.2 million a year. It's ANSI calculations off KDE website, I'm making it up. That money, and I've passed out, it says the number of at-risk students in the district shall be identified as those for free and lunch program. I know every school has free lunch students. But it talks about it shall be multiplied by this factor, blah, 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 blah. Funds generated under this paragraph may be used to pay for, number one, alternative programs for students who are at risk of dropping out of school before achieving a diploma. Also, we've never asked in the 6 years I've been there. Number two, a hazard duty pay supplement as determined by your local board of education to teachers who work in alternative school programs. We never asked for an extra dime from nobody, just let us do our job. That money, if we get 1.1 million plus the 60-something we've averaged for the year, that's 62 kids times 5,612, that helps pay for a lot of what we do. But then you got 1.1 million for at-risk kids, just a small portion of that pays for your alternative school. And the last thing that I found that the commissioner, and I'll sit down, be quiet, this was February. It says Dr. Holliday, he's talking about other things, physical control, board office, board members, and ethics. It says Terry Holliday wants to pose new requirements for school board members and superintendent evaluations. His plan will require ethics and physical oversight education for the board members and public, written reviews, graduation rates, and college readiness and achievement gaps to board members. He also said, Holliday said the main focus in his paragraph was, he said, we're acting because we're seeing too far many cases when adults are making choices on what's right for them, rather than what's right for students in our future. And that says it all. So if you can hold your head up high and vote the way you can, do it. You know, I think you'll find out that lost revenue, since it's about the almighty dollar, that over the years of the kids that we keep from dropping out and we go get and bring back to get their high school diploma, the graduation rate at the high school is going to suffer. Even though Sharon, all of them do a great job, it's going to suffer. 16, 18-year-olds, like I would think, since we're such budget hungry, I mean, we're needing money. That $10,000 thing that the commissioner just sent out, that we jump on that, pass that, and get in line and get 10 grand. That's 10 grand.
Have you
That's
read the
earmarked for
policy on that?
certain- it's
Yeah, you can
earmarked
do a
for
first
certain
and second
things.
reading on it.
They said do first, second reading,
Yeah,
and be
you have to,
eligible
yes.
for 90 days
Why
after
not
the
go
law.
ahead and do it?
But once you do your first, second reading, you're eligible.
Then it
for
takes
the
a motion and a second and it's
$10,000.
done.
But
But I got turned down on that, I sent emails to all of y'all on that one.
Well,
I got
I
shot.
That $10,000 is earmarked for certain things. It's
Yeah.
not earmarked for.
it's earmarked for programs that's
For
going to
community
help at-risk
relations and-
Well, it
students.
don't matter, it's $10,000.
Well-
Exactly, but still, it's earmarked for certain things.
Alternative schools.
And one thing
at-risk
you have to
programs.
be, that I always advise the board to be careful on, the $10,000 would be great. And I spoke with Mr. Schuyler Jones, our DPP, and gave him the emails that I was receiving on the drop-down list. He is working on this.
Cool.
And I talked to him on Monday. You know, one
How
thing
can
that,
2/3 of the state be jumping on it and we're not doing anything?
who said we were not, I just told you that Mr. Jones is working on this.
The answer I've got, I'll print my email, your response to my emails, I'll have them at the next board meeting.
And that's why I got the email from the commissioners saying, you might want to hold off on this. Did you get that email?
Yeah. But then they follow it up with another one saying you can do a first and a second reading.
And like I just explained to you, I gave
As
that
of
to
June
Mr.
something,
Jones.
yeah, you can go back and rewrite it again.
So is it gonna be on this next, on Thursday again?
If he is prepared to submit it on that, it will be. One thing that, talking about the academy, Ms. Ross, you reviewed and you and I have talked several times, and Can you tell me what your concern is?
My concern is, monitoring the student safety.
Okay, and you'll be provided a full-time SRO.
Oh, you already have one.
They'll be provided another.
Oh, you have two.
So we're gonna put 2 at the high school and none nowhere else?
Well, you have one staffed at the academy and one at the high school. It's the same.
Same thing.
No, because if it's
No,
on.
now you're gonna have 2 at the high school.
Until we
Yeah.
figure out
None
that the adults, the educated adults in this room figure out that it's the relationship you build with these students. It
Absolutely.
doesn't matter if you got 10 SROs. And that's why we have such low numbers and we have a relationship to build with them. Then when they're ready, the committee, the district committee, not my committee, moves them back to the high school. It's a revolving door between us two to give the high school extra help on kids they need. They just can't do it. 2 principals and 2 or 3 counselors can't provide that. Well, we can. It's not a fight between Sharon and myself. It's about helping these kids and giving them the support they need, or they're going to drop out. I just showed you how many dropouts and new students we got. That brings revenue in. It's not that hard math.
I talk with the students daily, sir, and discipline will not be a problem at the high school next year should the alternative be moved there, because there will be no students in the classroom. Many of them have told me in uncertain terms, no uncertain terms, that they will drop out when the academy is closed. It's not going to be hard to take care of 4 or 5 kids that are left over.
And what have we done?
And that's the truth. They tell me that.
Well, we appreciate your comments, everyone. And we'll be meeting. Any other suggestions on the budget or anything else you want to discuss?
Evidently didn't do any good.
Can I say something, Don?
Yes, sir.
Right. I don't know, you know, I interviewed for that position. I don't know if I'll be sitting up there or Mr. I think Gary or Mike. But we've sat here all this time, not accomplished one thing.
Well, we're not allowed to
We
vote on
can accomplish
anything.
nothing tonight.
It didn't seem like you tried.
This is a board that's divided.
I
It's
know,
very apparent, everybody knows that. It's
What-
2
what,
against 2.
because I don't know. If I get it, I'll be stepping in the hot seat.
Yes.
But where are the statements want to come from? Where? You're talking about $1 million.
Mr. Davis, I've addressed, last year I put a proposal in. Not one item was put on the agenda, not one item. Anything I've ever requested has not been put on the agenda. For whatever reason, I have no idea. I've contacted KDE, I've contacted OEA, I've contacted KSBA. What they do about the situation, I don't know, it's good.
We had 3 different budgets last year.
Not
and
one
of those
item.
were your
No, absolutely not.
cut from the top down, that's what you said, and that was on there.
Yeah, we
That was one of
presented
the
yours.
budgets.
We had people
Can we
that
show you how
make
that was presented?
extremely large amount salaries,
The way that was
I mean,
presented
you
was,
wouldn't
it was
believe.
showed at the end, a big deficit.
and we need to cut.
And
some
yours, the one you wanted, was
supervision.
showed a 0, it balanced out. I mean, it's common sense.
And again, you know, I'm responsible for submitting to the board the proposal that will keep us.
So why don't you take my suggestion?
Financially sound.
I'm a board member just like Ms. Gilready, Ms. Shook, Ms. Gibson. I have
Oh, you're
people in my
right.
district.
We're stepchildren, that's what I tell Brandon all the time, we're
Can I
stepchildren.
say something for a second? I mean, we've all been focused, there's nothing against Mike or the academy or anything else, but, you know, I have been from actually preschool through 12th grade since I've been here. And I've been at the end of the line, and I'm now at the beginning of the line. And not one time, you know, have I brought up or mentioned that, you know, we have a program called Save the Children in the ESSS, and that's your early steps. You know, you can talk about saving these children right now at this high school level, whether it's 51 or 91. But that ESSS, with what we work through is the main program that you need to keep those kids out of that problem when they get older. You know, and when you start looking at that, that's what feeds your preschool. And that's what gives you the learning skills and builds relationships with the parents and community where they will stay with their child from the beginning to the end. Now, before, at the upper level, I didn't see that. You know, we've had this for a number of years that we actually have grown. And during this process that everybody's arguing about is that myself, Ms. Stevens, we have had a relationship with people who fund money to Save the Children and fund it to ESSS, writing letters to Washington, to New York. I was supposed to go on a trip and didn't go, but Mitzi and Ms. Blakely did, paid out of their own pocket. You know what I mean? When you're talking about expenditures on fuel, we have principals meetings that go Richmond, Lexington, look and see if I've turned in any money, ask for my gasoline. Took a trip today to follow my kids. Most of these principals don't. Mr. Cash, I know he's been up there the one actually sticking out here and come back.
Yes, I went today
As
too.
far as focusing,
And I
if you
used my
want
own
to
gas.
make a change in education for McCreary County kids, you'll start looking, because what you will have an effect on is I've got 576 kids in my building, K through 3. Whitley has over 600. But it's going to directly, these actions that we make are going to affect them as well. So I ask you to look at the beginning, because that's going to help eliminate part of your problem at the middle in order to get them through, to get them to graduate. And as far as the issues, I have children that come through foster care. I have those that have been abused. I have children from, you know, drug families. I've got 7-year-olds that can tell you probably just as much as any of those kids in that building. But not a teacher in this county, I don't think, whether at the academy or the middle school or even anywhere, is better than another teacher. Every one of my teachers bust their hind end from the time they walk into the building to the time they leave. And the decisions are tough. So personal things aside, and focus on the business at hand, that's educating these kids. You know, the arguing part is not going to help anything. The thing is to look at it and find, no matter where you stand at, you know what I mean, to look at truthfully the dollar, and I don't think you're going to have enough information now to even make a decision, but when it comes out, whenever you receive your packets, then you're going to have material to work with and focus in hand, focus on the children. Right now it seems like we're focused on just adults, and I would focus on children.
Well, I'm glad you brought this up. Is that part of what we're considered cutting?
Actually, this funding that comes from that is actually just a private organization.
Right.
I mean, and so the money's, when I started at Pinewood Primary, just to say, in the past 2 to 3 years, and she can probably go back and look to see, just from my Title I money, I've lost about $47,000 $47,000. That's tremendous.
Yes.
You know, that's not counting staff, because I lost Title II staff last year. I was told I was going to lose 1 last year, ended up with 3, and I understand that. We made those concessions and went on. Actually looked at our pre-package that we were going to lose an aide. One retired, so I didn't hire back. And I've had a person volunteering come in making copies for our school. I mean, they volunteered to do that. So I'm not going to have that position next year. There wasn't no sense in me hiring it or having a sub that cost the district extra money. As far as principals making decisions, you know, we don't call them the subs in certain cases. By a team, those teachers divide their kids up. There's a predestinated list which classroom they go, and that way instruction is still given. We still use some subs, you know what I'm saying? But the fact is, we're making the cuts that we need to do, even with our janitors, instructional aides. You know, hey, we're holding back. We're changing schedules and not calling the sub. Everybody's, you know, we're working to make this better for our kids. The budget's going to be real. Harlan County is over $2 million. I met with the man Monday. Over $2 million. And it's the same type district that we are. And I promise you there's going to be deeper cuts. But once until those things come in, it's real. And some of the parents here, I've got your children in school, you know, this affects them. But at that younger level, let's get them to read. And I can tell you what kids that come in my building from kindergarten that do not attend preschool, how far they're behind. And that we cannot hold them back till 3rd grade But I'm asking parents, as we go up through, giving them the opportunity, and some accept that and hold them back in order to try to give them those basic skills. Because usually those kids that they end up with an alternative school, some of them don't have those basic skills. Some of them have not gotten an IEP when they should have, and they're not even reading it at a 6th grade level, probably not even at 4th grade level. You know, so first grade level. So that tells you that that bottom end, it's not there. We need to focus on that bottom end and programs that we have to be able to get them through the preschool, through the kindergarten. Then that will make stronger students. But it's a pretty good chunk of these people that came in, and we courted them. We took them all over the place. I even took them to Bobby Duncan's to the store, and they thought it was awesome. You know what I mean? Because they were the ones giving the money. And we're still working on relationship with those people to try to get the funding and grants. They asked for prices with the fringe and all, and that's been sent. Now, whether or not we get those, but we are trying, you know, so I just kind of wanted to put that out for where those are at.
Just a short note, I know you, and I know what type of person you are, because I've worked with you. And same thing back there for Shook and Gil Reed and Mike Cash. Monty was one of my kids. Edwina, Brian. I know what type of people you are, and I know you're good people. I know you're there for the kids. I know that you do a good job. And you just getting up and sharing that will help me do my job better. But you gotta tell me. If you don't tell us, we don't know. So thank you.
Okay.
Can I say something? I go on a lot of visits with my ESS person. And not only does she help the child with all these activities, she's made a book for each child, what the child needs. She knows the speech, gets that taken care of before when they hit preschool. We work hand in hand to make sure that these children get what they need before they even get to the primary. And also, what amazed me, every time I went on visit, I would take lots of time through the summer to go on visits with her. Or, you know, if there's a PD day, I go with her. And what I see is not only that she's educating that child, but she's educating that parent. We've got parents that don't know how to educate their child, that don't know how to help them with their homework. And she does that. Now we're losing that because of the $35,000 to keep that one component running. And it's just really sad, because the earlier the intervention, the better off the child is.
All right, thank you.
Okay. We appreciate everyone's input. I think it's been a valuable meeting, and certainly take everyone's ideas into consideration and their thoughts. And at this time, we just need the board members, any other ideas on reducing the $1 million? If not, we'll need a motion to adjourn, motion to set the next regular board meeting for April the 36th. Okay, and to adjourn the meeting.
Make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Ms. Gibson, Ms. Shook,
Aye.
Mr. Kidd, and Ms. Gilby.
Aye.
Thank you all. Appreciate it.